It is finally July. We're only a couple months away from the NFL season, which means it's time for us to start making our predictions for the 2025 season. And something that I think is fun is looking at the over-under numbers that Vegas has for the NFL teams and deciding whether or not I think they're going to hit the overs or the unders. Disclaimer, I am not a gambler at all. I don't gamble. This is not gambling advice. I simply think it's just fun to take a look at the over-unders that Vegas decides and try to decide if I think they're going to hit the over or hit the under. Today, we're going to be starting with the NFC North, and we're going to start with the Detroit Lions at a over-under of 10.5. Last season, we saw Detroit go 15-2, so they absolutely smashed the over last season. Do I think they can do the same thing this year? I have my doubts. We're talking about a team that lost their defensive coordinator in Aaron Glenn. He is now the head coach of the New York Jets. And they lost their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, who is now a head coach at a division rival Chicago Bears team. This team finished second in offensive yards per game last year. They finished first in points per game. And they finished seventh in defensive yards allowed. This team on paper screams it should be similar to what it was last year. However, the brain drain they suffered of losing both coordinators, I think is going to really hurt this team. Not to mention this NFC North division that we're going to be talking about today has one of the most brutal schedules I've ever seen. Not only do they have to play each other twice a year, which I think is one of, if not the hardest division in football, but this division also has to go on and play the AFC North, which is Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. That's a tough ask. So you're playing your own division, that's really hard. You have to play the AFC North, that's super hard. The division they're playing in the NFC is the NFC East, which I think is another really tough division. Them getting up to double-digit wins is not something that I think is certain. This is not something that I expect from the Detroit Lions. I'm actually going to go with the under here. I can't sit here and promise you that Jared Goff's going to look the same next season as he has the past few years with Ben Johnson. I can't promise you this defense is going to look very pretty. There's so many question marks with this team for me to come out here and predict them to get at least 11 wins next year. I do like them still. I think they still might end up winning the division, but I think winning the division in this division with how hard it is and how hard the schedule is going to be for the entire division, I think winning the division this year looks like a 9 to maybe 11, 12 wins, but that I feel like is absolutely pushing it. I feel way more comfortable talking about this team winning 9 to 10 games, which obviously both of those would put them at the under. So I'm going with the under for the Detroit Lions. They just lost too much, and there's so many question marks. So give me the under. Next up, I have the Green Bay Packers at 9.5. And I think this team surprised a lot of people last year, but it feels like a normal Green Bay Packer team with Matt LaFleur. It feels like they always find a way to at least be decent, competitive. But last year they were actually really good. This is a defense that allowed the 6th least points per game, and offensively they're 5th in yards per game and 8th in points per game. I mean, across the board, top 10 offense, top 10 defense. They went 11-6 last year. They draft Matthew Golden, who kind of adds to their receivers. I'm not sure if he separates himself as like the guy. They have a lot of good. I'm not sure they have any great. I think he kind of might add to the good, but I think he adds to the really good. Regardless, I think the receiving core is good. I think they actually ended up upgrading the offensive line, which was already very good last year. So they got the quarterback, they got the running back, the offensive line's good. I think the weapons are at minimum good enough, but I think they're actually ended up being pretty good this year. So here's what scares me about Green Bay, and that's their defense, specifically their cornerback room. They were one injury away from a receiver having to play corner. That's how weak it is. And that is a problem on any NFL team, but it really becomes a problem when you're in a division that has to play Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. That screams nightmare to me. Their starting corners aren't very good. It's not even like they have great corners and injury. We're talking about if an injury happens. This isn't very good corners to begin with. Now if an injury happens, we're talking about catastrophic nightmare, but just standard. They're not a very good corner room. So again, it's a hard division. It's a super hard schedule, and you have a really bad cornerback room. I don't think they were separated from the rest of the division without cutting Jair Alexander. So now they cut Jair. There's a lot of question marks here again, and there's a lot of fear that they're going to get torn up through the air, especially in the NFC North. So to me, this feels like an under. 9.5 is what the total was. Do I think they get to 10 wins? I don't think they do. I think this is another 9 win. It could get to 10. Here's the thing about Green Bay. I feel like most of the time recently people don't expect them to do well, and they do. So I see them as a 9 to 10 win. Obviously, 9's under, 10's over. Great line by Vegas, I should say. But I think I'm going with, it's more likely that they go under than over because of how good the division is. So I'm going under for Green Bay. Next up, we have the Chicago Bears. Their line is at 8.5. Last year, they only won 5 games. They were literally the worst offense in football as far as yards per game. However, something happened here, and I already spoke about it. It's Ben Johnson. He is the new head coach, the new offensive play caller, and I think that just completely changes this offense in Chicago. Their defense was already pretty good. They were 13th in points allowed, so you're above average already. I think that continues, maybe even gets a little better. And now this offense, I think we could see a transformation of the worst offense, I should say, in football to I'd say the peak's probably top 10, but still go from 32nd offense to a top 10 offense is something that would completely change the Chicago Bears as a team. Here's the thing about them, though. I expect offensively them to put up big numbers. Do I think that turns into wins? That's hard to say because we're talking about Caleb Williams, who is still only in his second year, and really that first year is a lot to be desired, not only by his play, but by the coaching he received. So maybe it feels more like a rookie year for Caleb. The other thing I am concerned about is Ben Johnson. We've never seen him have to manage a clock, time management, situational management. We don't know what that looks like from him. So I do think there's a scenario where at least early on in the season, we see them lose games they shouldn't be losing. With that said, this total is 8.5. Do I think they get up to 9 wins, man? 9 wins is so much. I think they're right around that 7 to 10 range, which, is a constant theme for this division. I think the worst team gets 7 wins. Honestly, I was going to say 6, and I don't believe that. I think the worst team in this division gets 7 wins. The best team probably ends up with 11. So this is a very tough guess. However, I believe so much in this offense. I believe so much in Ben Johnson. I think that they do end up getting to 9 wins. So I'm going to go with the over for Chicago, but man, it's tough. It's not a very easy feeling with any of these teams. There are some teams that I'll get into as we go into different divisions that I feel very comfortable with. This division, there's not a single team that I feel good or I feel great that they're going to hit the over or the under. I think the lines are set very well for all of them, and it's so tough with these teams. So I'm going to go with the over for Chicago. I think that Ben Johnson is enough to flip this around, but I'm not feeling great. Lastly, we do have the Minnesota Vikings. Clearly, I am wearing a Minnesota Vikings hoodie, so there is some bias towards here. So I'm just going to come out and say I have the over for Minnesota. They were 14-3 last year. They lose Sam Darnold, but they are elevating J.J. McCarthy to the starting quarterback. He was in the building last year. They were super, super stoked with him and what he showed in the preseason before he got injured. I don't want to spend too much time on Minnesota because I understand how it looks. I'm wearing a Viking hoodie. I didn't want to not wear it because I am a Viking fan, and I don't want people to think I'm hiding that fact. I am a Viking fan, so there is a potential that this is biased. However, something that Minnesota did that I think was the best thing they could have done, and something as a fan that I've been wishing they would do for the past, call it since I've been a fan, the last 10 years, is the offensive line has been so bad for so long. This is the first year Minnesota finally fully invested and just went out and got offensive linemen. They bring in Will Fries, Ryan Kelly. They draft an offensive lineman in the first round. This offensive line should be one of the better ones in football, assuming health, of course. I think it's been pretty proven in Minnesota's offense since Kevin O'Connell's been there. As long as you're not a bad quarterback, you will succeed, you will produce. Even if J.J. McCarthy's just average, which I think is what he should be at least average, then this offense will do well and it will succeed. It's one of those things. I've seen this offense throw for 400, 500 yards against the Lions with Nick Mullins at quarterback. I don't know if we're going to be seeing that from J.J. McCarthy, but it just goes to show, this offense, the system with Kevin O'Connell, the weapons with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, it's such a good situation for a young guy to come in and succeed that I think we see the young guy come in and succeed. So 8.5, do I think they get to 9 wins? Absolutely I do. I think that it's a 8 to, we'll call it 10, 11 win team. So my minimum, or I think they get to, is like at least 8 wins. That is one game under. I just realized they have to get to 9 wins. I misspoke there. The line is 8.5. I think they have to get to 9 wins. I do think they do it. Again, I think they're an 8 to 11 win team, so the odds are in my favor of them hitting the over. I understand it might sound biased, but I think this might have been one of the best off seasons in football. They upgraded the offensive line. They upgraded the defensive line, adding some run stoppers, which again is something Minnesota hasn't been able to do for the past 5-6 years since the prime Zimmer defense. They kept all their coaches, which is another huge thing for me. I think that this Minnesota team has a chance to win the division, but I also think this Minnesota team has a chance to be last place in the division because it's such a good division. So that's how I feel. I have the Lions at under. I have Green Bay at under. I have Chicago at over and Minnesota at over. Let's just be real. All that is I think they're so close together. I don't think anybody really separates themselves this year. So all that is the good teams, the teams that are ranked very highly. I'm not sure how good they'll be, so I rank them lower. The teams that are ranked lower, I rank them higher. They're all jumbled up in the middle. That's exactly how I see this division going, and that's why we got 2 overs, 2 unders. Of course, let me know what y'all think. I want to hear what y'all think. Tell me how I'm a biased Viking fan. I understand. And tell me who y'all think's going to win the division and who goes over, who goes under. I'm curious what y'all think. The goal on this channel is to post at least twice a week, although I'm doing the over-unders by division, so that's going to probably be 4 videos this week, 4 videos next week. But overall, it's probably going to be closer to only 2 videos a week. I do have a fantasy channel. I post 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. If you're interested in that, I'll leave a link in the description. Check out the fantasy page. If you need some help, some tips, you want to argue with my opinions, all are welcome. Go ahead and check it out.